Good evening, all of you. I'm CA Pranav Mantri, moderator of your today's session. We are delighted to welcome you all in this insightful webinar. It is my absolute pleasure to be a moderator in the webinar on labor laws, new labor codes, impact assessment. Today, conducted on 29th of Jan from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., being organized by Committee on Commercial Laws, Economic Advisory, and NPO Cooperative of ICA. In a short while, we'll be starting this webinar. But before that, I'll quickly like to apprise you about CCLEA and NPO committee. This committee is more focused to encourage chartered accountants to shape strategy and policy that unlocks economic, financial, and social value while combining analytical foresight with commercial acumen. One of the core areas of this committee is to serve the multifunctional task of analysis, knowledge dissemination, inputs to regulators on policy formulation, to develop and publish technical guidance, background materials, to create awareness for professional opportunities for CAs in commercial laws, economic advisory, and NPO cooperatives. The chairman of the committee is CA Abhay Chhajed and the vice chairperson is CA Pramod Jain. Our eminent speaker, CA Sunil Kumar sir, is here, who will speak on the labor laws, new labor codes, and the impact assessment. Before I hand over this platform to our today's esteemed speaker, let me quickly take this opportunity to introduce him. CA Sunil Kumar, he is a CA with over 14 years of professional experience practicing since 2011 and holds multiple qualifications right from CS, LLB, MCOM, DSA, and even has been registered as an insolvency professional with IBBI along with certification forensic audits, peer review, concurrent audit, and the booming AI. He has extensive expertise across taxation, labor laws, real estate, RERA, and insolvency laws, handling complex matters such as personal insolvency, labor law disputes, regulatory inspections, and cooperative compliance. He has been empaneled as a peer reviewer with ICAI and actively undertakes forensic audits and transaction reviews under IBC and other regulatory frameworks, combining legal insight with strong business understanding. He has been a regular faculty on labor laws, delivering practical training sessions for ICI CP programs, professional forums, and business associations with a focus on compliance, inspections, and employer obligations. So, indeed, it's an honor to have you here, sir, at this wonderful webinar. So, I'm sure that this webinar will definitely be an insightful thing for the audience out here. And as you have structured it in the four different codes, I even request the participants, if you have any queries, you already have the link, you can post your queries so we can even take it during the session. Over to you.
Thank you, Pranav, for kind introduction. At the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the committee chairman for inviting me to share my views on the topic, which is under active discussion among the professionals, employers, and employees, the new labor codes, and the impact on the employers of these codes. So, respected chairman and the committee and the participant available here, good evening. It's a privilege to me to address on the new labor codes. The new labor codes, there are no such entire new law. It is the consolidation of earlier existing laws. The provisions in such manner which requires proper understanding and proper implementation. We all know that on 21st November 2025, the new labor codes were notified. All four codes which were pending since 2019 and 2020 was notified on 21st November and has subsumed 29 central labor laws. So everyone is discussing about the applicability, from which date it is applicable, because the rules are published for public comment and has not been finally notified. Properly wholly effective or not. Second, there are the provident PF compliances, ESIC compliances in regular nature. So what is the impact and how to meet the compliances under the new labor codes? So there are number of discussions among professionals regarding new labor codes. So today objective of this session is to address these queries and the new labor code provisions, which is important. It may be it existed in earlier law also, but the employers or professionals was not so much aware, because we all know that we professionals are not much familiar with the labor laws. So I will also cover here some important provisions which is not new but should be known by the professionals, and will also discuss some important changes which will affect the employers as well as the professionals. These codes, we are discussing about the wages definitions only. So wages definitions has been changed, and some things everyone is asking about the compliance cost with this definition implementation. Why the changes in these definitions? The gratuity valuation, the gratuity cost will enhance, PF liability may be enhanced, but no other parts or will also affect with this definition, which is untouched by the professionals and employers as well. For example, in the definition of worker, it has been mentioned that if the employee, the person employed in supervisory capacity and his salary is not greater than 15,000, then it will be part of worker. If the salary amount exceeds rupees 18,000, 15,000, then it will be fall under the category of employee. So this is the also important changes, important effect by the definition of by the change in the definitions. So we will try to sum up, we will try to cover all those parts where the changes will affect the organizations. So with this background, I start my presentation. I hope this webinar will be helpful for the audience here. So let me allow to share my presentation. Visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
I request all the participants to raise your queries, and I would also request to moderator of this session, Mr. Pranav, to coordinate with them.
Sure thing.
Friends, we will discuss these labor codes in sequence so we can understand properly. First, we will discuss about the Code on Wages 2019.
So you can
Then
start the
we will
slideshow.
move forward on.
If you could start the slideshow, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Then we will discuss about the Code on Social Security 2020, followed by the Occupational Safety and Health and Working Conditions Code 2020, and finally we will discuss the Industrial Relations Code. So the Code on Wages 2019. This is very important. This code has subsumed 4 earlier laws which were related to wages and the payment of bonus. This act has comprised 9 chapters and 69 sections. The act has been framed in the manner all the common provisions has been consolidated in separate parts, and all 4 codes, the Equal Remuneration Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Bonus Act, and Payment of Wages Act, has been, the specific provision of these acts has been subsumed. So friends, we should know earlier provisions what provisions was governed by these provisions, by these acts. The Payment of Wages Act 1936 was governing the payment, timely payment and restrictions on unauthorized deductions. The Minimum Wages Act 1948 was regarding the ensure minimum wages not less than the prescribed. Payment of Bonus Act was governing the provisions for employee share in the employer growth if the companies are growing, and Equal Remuneration Act was ensuring to no discrimination on the remuneration on the basis of gender. So the same provision, same principle has been continued by the Code on Wages 2019, but some important changes has been done and which will affect the whole entire labor codes, all four labor codes. So we will start with the core of this new labor code, the definition of wages. So this definition is from the Code on Wages 2019, Section 2, Clause Y. Wage means this definition has been divided into 6 or 7 parts. I will analyze clause by clause. First, I am reading so we can understand properly. First part is wages means all remuneration. This part is very important to understand. All remuneration. It may be in any form, whatever in form, either in the form of salary or in the form of allowances or in the form of otherwise. If the terms of employment were fulfilled, be payable to a person employed in respect of his employment or of work done in such employments. So this is the core meaning of the wages. At present, what is the confusion among the professionals? Everyone is saying कि basic pay, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance is the meaning of wages. All these 3 parts will be included and no other parts will be excluded. So we should clarify that these are the specific inclusions, not the meaning, because meaning in the first part means all remuneration. कुछ भी दिया जा रहा है किसी काम के बदले, काम करने के बदले जो तय हुआ है और जो दिया जा रहा है वो सब wages का पार्ट होगा. This is the meaning of wages, and there are 3 components which have been specifically included: basic pay, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance. If there are retaining allowance, then it will be included under the wages. This is specific inclusion to remove the ambiguity due to the confusions. So these 3 components have been specifically included. So it is not correct to say that basic pay, DA, and retaining allowance are only the components which should be the part of wages. Now we move forward to the exclusion parts. There are 11 components, 11 clauses which describes about the exclusions. First, bonus payable under any law which does not form part of the remuneration, payable under the terms of employment. It means in the current practice, certain employers pays the bonus on a regular basis without any liability, without any statutory obligations. Then they say whether these are excluded. No. So it should be checked. Second is regarding perquisites or amenities, the value of any house accommodation or the supply of light, water, or medical attendance or other amenity, and special power has been provided to appropriate government to exclude these services from the computation of wages. C is regarding the contribution to provident fund, pension fund, or interest may have accrued thereon. This is the contribution to provident fund part. D and E is regarding the allowances, like a reimbursement of expenditure, a conveyance allowance, or value of any traveling concession. E, any sum paid to employed persons who defray special expenses entailed on him by the nature of his employment. So these 2 clauses, these 2 nature of expenses, these 2 nature of allowances are like a reimbursement of expenditure. F is regarding house rent allowances. House rent allowance has been specifically excluded. We will also discuss on the house rent allowances because some employers are saying that we can fix their salary, we can fix their salary structure in the manner that we can 50% basic and 50% HRA. Then then there will not be any confusions. So we should keep other factors in mind, whether by nomenclature it may be treated as house rent allowance or not, because by giving the name, by the nomenclature, any payment cannot be termed as the nomenclature as the purpose for which we are giving. In Supreme Court judgment, it was said that if any allowances are paid uniformly without any purpose to all employees, then it cannot be said to it is allowance. It will be the part of basic. So we should clear in the mind only by giving the name, by giving the nomenclature, cannot be treated as the same purpose. So we will discuss later one by one. And G is regarding remuneration payable under any award, settlement between the parties or order of a court or tribunal. And H and I is regarding the performance, regarding the working, extra efforts, overtime, and commission. And J and K is regarding the payable remuneration payable on termination, on cessation. So these 11 clauses, there are specific exclusion from the definition of wages. There are two proviso. First proviso says, which is very important, this is a ceiling of 50% allowances. What it says, provided that for calculating the wages under this clause, if payments made by the employer to the employee under clauses A to I. So friends, we should keep in mind J and K, it is the cessation or these allowances, these benefits, these gratuity and retrenchment compensation are payable only on cessation. So it will not be computed, it will not be considered for the purpose of the ceiling. So A to I, if we compute, we exclude. So we should not consider the gratuity amount or retrenchment compensation amount for this clause. So if the under clause A to I exceeds 1/2 and or such other percent, government has been empowered to change this percentage also. So we should also keep in mind, central government has the power to change this rate of all the remuneration calculated under this clause. Then the amount which exceeds such 1/2 or the percent so notified shall be deemed as remuneration, and this shall be accordingly added in wages under this clause. So this clause has affected intentionally to the employers. So I will discuss one by one, but so we should focus. Yeah, it explains, it restricts, it computes, it considers only A to I clause, not J and K, which is regarding the gratuity payable on termination and retrenchment compensation, retirement benefit, or any ex gratia payment made to him on the termination of the employment. And second proviso is regarding the meaning of wages for other purposes. For the section 3 regarding the equal remuneration or the provision which was earlier governed by the Equal Remuneration Act, no discrimination on the basis of gender. So for that purpose, clause D, F, G, and H will be included under the wages. Second, for the purpose of payment, we will see later. Section 17 specifies the time of payment of salaries. It will be paid within 7 days or as per the wage period. So for that purpose, for that compliance, D, F, G, H, the clauses which conveyance allowance, traveling concession, or allowances for house rent allowances and remuneration payable under any award or overtime allowances, it should also be paid within time. So for that purpose, wages meaning has been included under these four allowances also. And one part is explanation, where an employee is given in lieu or of the whole or part of the wages, then up to 15%. 15% तक वो wages मानी जाएगी. तो अगर हम इस डेफिनेशन को अब एनालाइज करेंगे वन बाय वन, तो एक कोर मीनिंग, सेकंड इसमें स्पेसिफिक इंक्लूजन्स, थर्ड स्पेसिफिक एक्सक्लूजन्स, फर्स्ट प्रोविजो रिगार्डिंग सीलिंग ऑफ द अलाउंसेस, second provision they are different meaning for different purposes, and next part finally explanation for remuneration in kind. So we analyze this definition one by one. We understand this definition with example. I have framed here. For example, one employee is getting total remuneration rupees 60,000, out of which rupees 20,000 is basic salary and 40,000 is other allowances. The total salary is rupees 60,000 as per existing their salary structure. Under this clause, we say other allowances 40,000 is A to I clause, excluding gratuity and retirements, because it is payable only from the organization, only on the section of the employment. Then what clause said? If the total 50% of total remuneration exceeds, so 50% of total remuneration in this case 60,000, 50% is 30,000. If it exceeds of the basic, so basic is 20,000 and 50% of the total remuneration is 30,000. So excess is rupees 10,000. It will be added back to the basic. So for the purpose of under this clause, wages will be computed as rupees 30,000. One very important question is here. Everyone is asking is we have to restructure our salary structure. Whether it is mandatory to revise the salary structure? Not. But for computation, for the purpose of calculation, this definition will be taken into account, will be considered. So it is not necessary that the employer will have to restructure their salary structure, but should keep in mind for the purpose of computation, wages will be considered with the under new labor code definitions. We understand. I have analyzed this definition here. If first core meaning is all remuneration form irrelevant. One question arise 1 or 2 days before. One person asked me, sir, we are paying salary to the employees on the basis of commission only, and they are getting on certain percentage. All the staffs, we are not paying only fixed amount, but they are getting the commission on their productivity basis. Whether we will have to take compliances under the labor codes. So this definition we should understand for that purpose. This definition wages means all remuneration, whether salary, payable in salary, allowances और otherwise. Which means किसी भी तरीके से उसको सैलरी रेम्युनरेशन दिया जा सकता है, तब भी वो वेजेस का पार्ट बनेगा. बस कंडीशंस क्या है कि पेबल इफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट टर्म्स फुलफिल्ड. अभी एक क्वेश्चन पिछली वेबिनार में किसने रेज किया था, सर ईसॉप अगर कंपनी इशू करती है तो और उसमें जो बेनिफिट्स होता है, क्या वो इसका पार्ट बनेगा, क्या वेजेस का पार्ट बनेगा, ईसॉप इसका पार्ट कैसे बनेगा? क्योंकि इफ टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट फुलफिल्ड, देन उसको जो मिलता है उसके बदले जो मिलेगा काम करने के बदले, वो वेजेस का पार्ट बनेगा. तो ईसॉप का इसमें वो इसके अंदर फॉल नहीं करेगा. तो ये कोर डेफिनेशन इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, कोर मीनिंग, क्योंकि सारे एस्पेक्ट्स, ऑल कंपोनेंट्स आर नॉट डिस्क्राइब्ड हियर और कैन नॉट बी डिस्क्राइब्ड, क्योंकि नॉमेनक्लेचर कुछ भी हो सकता है. सो दिस इज द कोर मीनिंग. वी विल चेक 3 कंपोनेंट्स कि वहां पर उसकी जो टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट है वो पूरी हो रही है, और उसके बदले उसने जो काम किया है तो उसके बाद जो भी पेबल है वो वेजेस का पार्ट होगा. बट जो स्पेसिफिक एक्सक्लूजन है उसमें वो नहीं होना चाहिए, वो भी सब्जेक्ट टू सीलिंग. Pranav, I think slide is not seeing me, visible to me. I'm audible. Am I audible? Pranav, am I audible? So now uh, we move forward. Mandatory inclusions. These are three components which have been specifically included under this definition: basic pay, DNS allowance, and retaining allowance. So we cannot say only these three components will be included. These are the specific inclusions, and we should keep in mind the core meaning also. These are the exclusions, and we will discuss one by one each clauses here. I have mentioned these exclusions under different categories. So first category I have grouped in three components: bonus, overtime allowance, and commission. These are the contingent and variable payments. These are excluded. I have categorized in category B the amenities, house accommodation facilities, other services, light, water, medical attendance, and other notified amenities. This will also be part of exclusions. In category C, this is the reimbursement and compensatory payments like a conveyance allowance, travel concession, and special expenses. Two specific components: house rent allowance and also contribution paid by employer to any pension or provident fund and the interest accrued thereon. These are category E I have specified. These are not, this category has not been in the law, but I have grouped for the convenience of the audience the judicial and collective determinations, any award payment under any settlement amount and court orders and remunerations. And finally, the category F, terminal and retirement benefits. These are the exclusions: gratuity, retrenchment compensation, retirement benefit, or any ex gratia. So these six categories categories have not been defined. These 11 components have been specifically excluded subject to ceiling. This is the first provision, which is regarding the ceiling. If payments exceeds 50% of total remuneration, then it will be deemed as wages. And this is the second provision for two purposes: equal wages to all genders. Then for clause D, clause F, clause G, clause 4. If we describe the components: the conveyance allowance, house rent allowance, award or settlement payments, and overtime allowance. These four components will also be included for the purpose of for the determination of compliance of equal wages to all genders, and also for the payment of wages compliance. And this is the part of explanation. Remuneration in kind up to 15%, it will be part of wages. Pranav, let me know my screen is visible because it is.
Yeah, your screen is visible.
So it is sticking. So please, I am not able to move.
Can you take it to the next slide? I'll quickly tell you.
Please. Large percentages. So it is.
Right now, you are out of the PPT.
Yes, yes. So this is the problem at present. I again share. I think I should stop my sharing. Then again.
Yeah, you can reshare it.
Yes, yes, please. A second, I think this is not visible to me also. So I should open again. Now it is visible.
It's visible, yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
all the slides.
Yes. So I have summarized this definition. Okay, first we should consider the all remuneration. Second, apply exclusions. थर्ड इज री इंक्लूड एक्सेस 50% से एक्सेस का होगा उसको ऐड करेंगे सेकंड प्रोविजो इज रिगार्डिंग पर्पस ड्रेस्ड ओनली फॉर टू पर्पसेस इक्वल रिम्यूनरेशन एंड द फॉर द पेमेंट ऑफ wages and in kind this is the explanation 15%. Now we move forward on the very important part how it will affect the employers and on which components on which parts it will have the major impacts. EPF contribution base, ESIC contribution base, gratuity calculation, minimum wages compliances. Minimum wages compliance, we will have to keep the appropriate government notifications also because it will be what will be the salary for compliance under the minimum wages under the code on wages 2019. So sections, I think section 7 has been specified regarding component of minimum wages. So it will depend on the appropriate government which component will be taken to keep to determine the compliances for equal remuneration and for social security thresholds also. So this definition will impact these areas. For example, it will also affect overtime wages. It will also affect the bonus eligibilities, but bonus have separate chapter. So we will not, it will not affect so much the bonus provisions, but it will affect other social security provisions like provident fund, gratuity, others. So we discuss one by one. Impact on leave encashment and leave salary. Why it is important? We should see that we employers pay the leave salary, and for the computation of leave salary, the meaning of wages is very important. By the changes in this definition, the amount of leave salary, the provisions, the valuation of leave salary has been enhanced to certain extent. It has affected the valuation to in large like gratuity components. So it's important to affect the because what I've seen employer has determined the impact on gratuity but not determined still on the impact on the leave salary. So this definition will also affect the leave encashment and leave salary after the 21st November 2025. Impact on employee compensation in case of ESI, in case of employee who is covered under ESI or who is not covered, then will cover under the workman compensation. So for determination of compensation under the ESIC provisions or workman compensation provisions, the wages definition is more important. So it will affect the employee compensation and it will be employee will be benefited by these definitions. Impact on provident fund compliances. Under the provident fund, we will discuss in detail in Code on Social Security Codes 2020. But we are discussing the impacts. Under the PF provisions, we see that employer have to pay 12% on of the salary, but there are capping, they are ceiling of 15,000 up to 15,000 employer have to pay 12%. So one question everyone is asking the take home salary about the take home salary की सब नई definition से take home salary कम हो जाएगी क्योंकि provident fund का deduction ज्यादा होगा. पर यहाँ पर हमें एक चीज component ध्यान रखना चाहिए. We should keep in mind that there are no foundation, there are no mandatory to pay by the employer up more than rupees 50, मतलब more than rupees 1800, मतलब 15,000 तक उसको 12% देना है और 15,000 से ऊपर जो अगर उसकी सैलरी है तो वहां पर एम्प्लॉयर की वॉलेंट्री उसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन पर डिपेंड है कि वो 15,000 से ऊपर को उसको 12% काटना है या 15,000 तक काटना है। मतलब गवर्नमेंट की स्टेचुटरी लायबिलिटी ओनली अप टू ₹1,800 एंड 12% अप टू ₹15,000। तो इन माई ओपिनियन देयर आर नो सच मेजर इम्पैक्ट फॉर द एम्प्लॉइज। अगर वो ज्यादा कटाना नहीं चाहते हैं, ज्यादा काटना नहीं चाहता एम्प्लॉयर, तो वहां पर उनकी टेक होम सैलरी पे ज्यादा इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा। वहां पर जो एम्प्लॉइज जो लोअर अभी किसी का जो सैलरी का स्ट्रक्चर कम है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि कोई किसी की सैलरी 30,000 रुपये थी ग्रॉस और उनका 15,000, 50% से अपने 15,000 लेते हैं, तो वहां पर तो कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं पड़ा। पर 20,000 रुपये की किसी ग्रॉस सैलरी थी और उसका आज कंपोनेंट जो पहले 10,000 पे कटता था या 11,000 पे कटता था, तो और वो किसी कंपोनेंट एक्स एड बैक होके अगर वो कंपोनेंट 12, 13, 14,000 तक हो जाता है, तो वहां पर स्लाइटली चेंज आएगा। तो टेक होम सैलरी पर इस प्रोविडेंट फंड से ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट नहीं आएगा अगर वो ज्यादा पीएफ डिपॉजिट कंट्रीब्यूट करना नहीं चाहेंगे, क्योंकि बिकॉज देयर आर नो स्टेचुटरी रिक्वायरमेंट टू पे मोर देन 12% ऑन रुपीज more than 50,000, 15,000. So it will not much affect to the take home salary. And ESIC, ESIC पर इसका इम्पैक्ट बहुत आएगा फ्रूट कवरेज पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। अभी ESI की जो डेफिनेशन है उसमें बहुत सारे कंपोनेंट लेवल ऑफ वी कैन से दैट कि ग्रॉस सैलरी से उसकी एलिजिबिलिटी को डिटरमाइन किया जाता है। फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ एनी एम्प्लॉय इज गेटिंग सैलरी, टोटल सैलरी अप टू ₹21,000, then only he will be covered under the ESIC provisions. But now by changing the under this definition, what will impact कि अगर किसी ने सैलरी का रिस्ट्रक्चर किया और कोई एम्प्लॉय अभी 40,000 रुपीज सैलरी अर्न कर रहा है और इस डेफिनेशन से उसका रिस्ट्रक्चर करके उसका मीनिंग मतलब टू 50% किया, तो उसकी सैलरी पता चला कि अंडर द क्लॉज सेक्शन 2 क्लॉज वाई उसकी डेफिनेशन 20,000 डिटरमाइन की जाएगी। तो अगर जैसे उसकी सैलरी 20,000 हो जाती है तो क्या होगा कि वो उस 21,000 रुपये के दायरे में आ जाएगा और 21,000 रुपये के एम्बिट में आते ही उसको ESIC में बेनिफिशियरी के तौर पे ऐड कराना होगा, एज इंश्योर्ड कराना होगा और उस पर कंट्रीब्यूशन जमा कराना होगा। तो जो सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट अगर कंप्लायंस में अपन देखेंगे वेजेस का, तो ESI पे फुल करेगा। ESI के बहुत सारे सर्कुलर्स भी आए, लोगों को कन्फ्यूजन भी है अभी, पर ये दिमाग में है कि डेफिनेशन सबके लिए सेम है। ये ESIC के लिए कोई नई डेफिनेशन नहीं है। तो ESIC में जो एम्प्लॉइज अभी मोर देन 21,000 से ऊपर भी हैं, तो उसमें भी ये इम्पैक्ट करेगा। वो एज ए इंश्योर्ड पर्सन उसको रजिस्टर्ड कराने होंगे। तो यहाँ पर एम्प्लॉयर के लिए और प्रोफेशनल्स के लिए चीज देखने के लिए है कि जो एम्प्लॉय अभी तक जो अगर कह सकते हैं 21,000 से 40-42,000 रुपये तक की रेंज में जो एम्प्लॉय जो थे एम्प्लॉयमेंट में हैं, तो उनको देखना होगा कि ये अंडर द न्यू रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग या अंडर द न्यू सैलरी स्ट्रक्चर कहीं वो ESIC के दायरे में फॉल तो नहीं कर रहे। अगर वो ESIC के दायरे में आते हैं, एम्बेड में आते हैं, तो उनको ESIC में रजिस्ट्रेशन भी होगा। और कंट्रीब्यूशन, तो यहाँ पर कंट्रीब्यूशन में भी कम वेरी करेगा। कभी कंट्रीब्यूशन ग्रॉस पे जा रहा था तो कंट्रीब्यूशन यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा हो सकता है, इन माई ओपिनियन वो चेंज आएगा, कम ही आएगा। Impact of bonus calculations, the separate chapter, no such major changes under the bonus. तो यहाँ पर ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट इस बोनस पे नहीं आएगा इस डेफिनेशन का। इम्पैक्ट ऑफ मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट्स, वी विल डिस्कस दिस प्रोविजंस आप ऑल्सो कि जो मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट वुमेन एम्प्लॉय को मिलता है वो ऑल्सो इस डेफिनेशन से उसको इफेक्ट होगा और उसको बेनिफिट ज्यादा मिलेगा। एक जो इम्पोर्टेंट चेंजेस जो मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहता हूँ, आई वांट टू हाईलाइट दिस चेंजेस व्हिच हैज बीन अनटच्ड अननोटिस्ड बाय द एम्प्लॉयर्स एंड प्रोफेशनल्स, कि जो टू डेफिनेशंस हैं, वर्कर और एम्प्लॉय। एम्प्लॉयज की जो डेफिनेशन है वो वाइडर है, मतलब एम्प्लॉय में सब कुछ कवर है, एम्प्लॉय में वर्कर भी कवर है। बट वर्कर में जो कवर नहीं है उसमें 3 कैटेगरी होती है, द पर्सन एम्प्लॉयड इन एडमिन कैपेसिटी, मैनेजरियल कैपेसिटी एंड थर्ड होती है सुपरवाइजरी रोल। देन फॉर द सुपरवाइजरी रोल a limit has been specified कि if the person is getting rupees 50 up to rupees 15,000 and it is in supervisory role, then he will be deemed to as a worker, and if he's getting rupees more than 15,000, then he will be deemed as employee. So this definition will affect the category whether he is a worker or he is an employee, because records and documents will have to maintain, and returns under the labor compliances will also ask regarding the number of workers and number of employees, and all, because under the industrial relation code 2020, this will also affect. So employers will keep in mind by the restructuring of the salary whether it's affect the definition of worker or definition of the employees. So I want to highlight this topic, these meanings employers should keep in mind when he's restructuring their salary. Overtime wages, because section 14 specifies कि अगर जिस जो ओवर टाइम होता है ओवर टाइम ट्वाइस रेट से होगा तो उसके लिए रेट क्या होगी, तो वो जो वेजेस कैलकुलेट करनी है, वेजेस का जो मीनिंग होगा फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ ओवर टाइम वो अंडर द क्लॉज 2Y होगा, तो इट विल आल्सो इफेक्ट द ओवर टाइम वेजेस एंड इट विल एनहांस द कॉस्ट टू द एम्प्लॉयर. सो वी हैव सीन कि कहाँ पे कौन कौन से एरियाज पे यहाँ पे इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा. सोशल सिक्योरिटी बोर्ड के हिसाब से देखें तो पीएफ, ईएसआईसी, ग्रेचुटी, लीव एनकेसमेंट, ओवर टाइम वेजेस, मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट, एम्प्लॉय कंपनसेशन, एंड ऑल्सो द नॉन फाइनेंशियल टर्म में अगर बात करें तो इन द टू आइडेंटिफाई द कैटेगरी ऑफ वर्कर एंड एम्प्लॉयज. नाउ I move further on the very important definitions, contract labor. There are slightly changes under these definitions, which is need to understand. Contract labor means a worker, and so what is changed and includes what is the who shall be deemed to be employed in, but what is changes includes interested migrant worker. दिस क्लॉज वाज नॉट अर्लियर. इंटरेस्टेड माइग्रेंट वर्कर को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लेबर डेफिनेशन में लिया है, और ये हम आगे डिस्कस करेंगे कि इसका क्या इंपैक्ट पड़ेगा, क्योंकि इन द इंटरेस्टेड माइग्रेंट वर्कर ऑल्सो वेज डेफिनेशन विल बी कंसिडर्ड if any worker is get hired through contractor and getting the salary up to rupees 18,000 for the interested migrant worker, the salary limit is rupees 18,000. So then the wage definition will also impact the meaning of interested migrant worker, and it indirectly will also impact the computation of number of contract labor. So wage definition will also affect for find out whether the definition, whether the person employed will fall under the category of interested migrant worker or consequently under the contract labor also. So contract labor, there are three parties: principal employer, contractor, and contract labor. Why I have mentioned here this definition? Because we will discuss in the Occupational Safety and Health and Working Conditions Code, contract labor. We should understand the meaning of wages and the impact of wage definitions, contract labor. Now I discuss here employer. Why this definition is more important? To fix the liability. It includes specifically, if we these are contractors engaged in employment, contractors or legal representatives of such deceased employer, means the employer has specifically included the contractor. Employer, every contractor will be deemed as employer. अगर हम contractor की definition देखते हैं तो contractor includes subcontractor. तो subcontractor, contractor or employer, all three persons will be deemed as employer. Why this definition is relevant? Because liability under these codes have been fixed to the employers. So who is the employer? This definition is more important. if we see the definition, so the any person employing one or more employees, एक one important part to be understand here कि कोई भी पर्सन अगर वो एक भी एम्प्लॉय को एम्प्लॉय करता है तो वो एम्प्लॉयर माना जाएगा, क्योंकि इट विल इफेक्ट द एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ द कोड ऑन वेजेस. नाउ देयर आर क्वेश्चन रिगार्डिंग द एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ दिस कोड्स कि ये कोड ऑन वेजेस किस पर एप्लीकेबल होंगे. प्रोफेशनल्स आर some are saying that it is applicable on 10 or more persons employed. Someone is saying there are no limit. A number of confusions are there. So we will discuss here कि how we will determine कि on which establishments this code on wages 2019 is applicable. When we will discuss on section 50, then we will discuss regarding the applicability. But before that, we should understand the meaning of employer. So important points is to be noted here कि employer, if even one employee is employed, then person will be deemed as employer. And for the government establishments, the department heads will be deemed as employer. And in case of factory, the factory occupiers or the person named as manager. And finally, the person who has the ultimate control over the establishment affairs is the employers. So we will discuss in next slide the employer liability. This is the employer responsibility कि employer must pay all amounts. जो भी अमाउंट ड्यू है उसकी पेमेंट करने की लायबिलिटी एम्प्लॉयर की होती है. और एम्प्लॉयर कौन होगा वो हमने पिछले स्लाइड्स में पढ़ा. सो एवरी एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स हैज टू आइडेंटिफाई कि हु इज द एम्प्लॉयर. एंड अगर वो एम्प्लॉयर पे नहीं करेगा तो ये एस्टेब्लिशमेंट ओनर पे चली जाएगी, लायबिलिटी फिक्स हो जाएगी. यानी अगर हम बात करें कंपनी फर्म एसोसिएशन, तो प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर जो है उसको ध्यान रखना है कि वो लायबिलिटी को तुरंत वॉच करे कि जो उसका एम्प्लॉय का इमीडिएट एम्प्लॉयर है वो उसको जितने भी ड्यूज हैं उसका पेमेंट टाइम से हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है. सो आई हैव मेंशन हियर द डेफिनेशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉयर. Now we move further on the new concept, floor wages in the new labor codes. The central government has introduced section 9, floor wages. What is the meaning of floor wages and what is the reason behind to introduce this section? Appropriate government, we can say the state government has, every state government has notified their rates on the basis of categories. These are different from state to state. What states want to attract investment from other and from the large companies. So to reduce the manpower cost, it may notify the lower rate. तो वहां पर एम्प्लॉयर एक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट क्या करती थी कि स्टेट गवर्नमेंट उसको इन्वेस्टर्स को अट्रैक्ट करने के लिए जो रेट्स थी, मिनिमम रेट्स, उनको काफी लोअर लेवल पर नोटिफाई कर देती थी. तो इट वाज आइडेंटिफाइड बाय द गवर्नमेंट कि ऐसा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट कर रही है. तो द कंसेप्ट, दिस फ्लोर वेज कंसेप्ट हैज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड. व्हाट दिस इज कि स्टेट गवर्नमेंट या एप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट कैन नॉट नोटिफाई देयर मिनिमम वेजेस below the floor wages. For example, if central government has notified rupees 1000 as a floor wages, then state government, appropriate government will fix the minimum wages either rupees 1000 or more than rupees 1000. However, if the state government has already fixed their minimum wages more than 1000 or up to 1000, then it will not reduce the minimum wages to reach the floor wages. For example, in this case, if state government has notified rupees 1200 as a minimum rate, minimum wages, then it cannot reduce to rupees 1000. However, in reverse case, if the minimum wages has been determined, for example, rupees 800, then it will have to enhance rupees 1000. So this concept as introduced by central government. So now the question arises that this floor wage will be same in on pan-India basis? No. The central government will determine their floor wages by on the basis of the geographical areas and other factors. So it will depend, it may vary on the area to area and on the geographical area basis or other factor basis. Now we move further on the very important provisions which was earlier governed under the Payment of Wages Act, the time limits for wage payments. This section 17 has specified the time limit for wage payment. If the wage period has been fixed on daily, then it should be paid by the end of the day. If the wage period is fixed as weekly, then it should be on the last working day before weekly holiday. If the wage period has been fixed on fortnight basis, then wage payment should be within the 2 days after fortnight ends, and in case of monthly wage period, it should be paid within 7 days. Earlier, in case of monthly, it was in 2 categories. Up to rupees 1,000 employees, the establishment may pay up by 7th, and if the employee base is more than 1,000 numbers, then it should be paid by, it can be paid by the 10th. But it has been unified under the Code on Wages 2019. But very important change in case of termination. If the employee is dismissed by any reason, retirement, resignation, or any other reason, then within 2 days, full and final settlement should be done. This is the challenge for the employer. Sorry, this is the challenge for the employer. How they will maintain the records, because they are at present practice, they are paying after 30 days or within the next wage cycle, or in many organizations they may take 45 days. So they should review their structure in the manner. In case of employee leaving the organizations, should be paid within 2 working days. So it's a very important change, and it will affect the cash flow also. Now, sorry. Now we discuss the compliances, records, returns, and notices under section 50. It is specified that employer must maintain prescribed registers, including employee register, wage register, and other statutory registers. Second requirement is regarding display of notices, and third requirement is issue of wage slips. And what subsection 4 says, it is not, these provisions is not applicable to the persons who have employed up to 5 persons for agriculture and domestic purpose. Why I am highlighting this point? I will discuss the applicability. The person, the confusion is that on which establishment these codes are applicable, whether there are any thresholds or not. So if we analyze this section 50, which says that these 4 clauses under subsection 1, subsection 2, and subsection 3 is not applicable only in 2 cases, when the persons employed is up to number of 5 and the purpose solely or exclusively for agriculture or domestic purpose. So what we can extract from this section, it means this Code on Wages is applicable to every establishment. There are no any exclusions, there are no any thresholds. For the section 50, for these 3 clauses, this subsection 4 has been specifically mentioned that these three compliances are not required to be by the employer who has employed only up to five persons for domestic or agriculture purpose. And also domestic purpose has also been explained that it should be exclusive solely domestic. It means if any person is doing partly in office and partly in domestic services, then it will not be deemed as domestic purpose. So, friends, in my opinion, these codes are applicable to every establishments. For this purpose, if we analyze the definition of establishment, there are simple definitions. Any place establishment means any place where any occupation, trade, business is carried on. So I think every place will be covered. This is the section 54 regarding the penalties, which is the major changes. Where is the major changes? There are three type of offenses: either non-payment or underpayment of wages, non-record maintenance, or other provisions. If the offense is regarding underpayment of wages, then the penalty is up to rupees 50,000. But in case of same offenses repeated within 5 years, then imprisonment provision is also there, and penalty fine up can be imposed up to rupees 1 lakh. In case of record maintenance compliances, offense of non-record maintenance or improper record, not maintaining proper records, then the penalty is up to rupees 10,000. In case of repeat, it will be rupees 20,000. And other code violation is rupees 20,000 for first time offense, and this will be double rupees 40,000. But in case of repeated offense, there may be imprisonment provisions as well. So friends, we have discussed some important definitions: definition of wages, definition of contract labor, definition of employer. We also discussed about the impact of changes in the definition of wages and the applicability of the code on wages. Section 50 records, registers, issue of wage slip, which is required to be issued. Wage slip, issuance of wage slip is very important part. What the code says, wage slip should be issued on or before the payment of salary. So employer should also keep in mind that before payment of salary, they should confirm that wage slip should be sent to the employees, and it should be aligned with the payment. And in case of penalty, if we discuss about the penalties, so in case of repeat offense, there may be imprisonment provisions as well. So for first time, because in this codes, the inspector facilitator concept has been introduced. Okay, inspector will inform you, first time inform you, and will give you opportunity to make compliances of the provisions. But if the same offense is repeated within 5 years, then no opportunity will be provided, and the fines will, as well as the imprisonment provisions, can be imposed. So this is the compliance opportunity I have discussed here. So it is employer should try to make compliances timely in that manner, so there should not be offense, or if offense happens, then it should make compliant after the notice received, but it should not be delayed. So friends, this is from my side regarding the code on wages 2019. Before I move forward, I would love to hear from you. I request the moderator, Mr. Pranav, if there are any queries, so we may address, then we will move forward.
There was only one query, that is the new set of labor codes even for a chartered accountant who is working in a company? Is it applicable? And even for the CA who is an employer?
Sir, this is applicable to establishments. So what is the meaning of establishments? If we see the definitions of establishment, it says the any place where any business, profession, trade, occupation is carried on. तो सीए का बिजनेस जो भी है, सीए का ऑफिस भी इससे एक्सक्लूड नहीं कर सकते. एंड अभी तो थ्रेशोल्ड की बात कर रहे थे कि देयर आर एनी थ्रेशोल्ड्स, तो वी हैव रेड सेक्शन 50 वो which says regarding the records, returns and notices. This has specified regarding the compliances regarding the maintenance of records. The employer should maintain the registers, should display the notices and issue the wage slip. And subsection 4 has specified that these three clauses are not applicable only to that employer who has employed only up to 5 persons for agriculture एंड डोमेस्टिक पर्पस. तो इससे हम ये देख सकते हैं कि सेक्शन 50 स्पेसिफाई करता है केवल ये 3 क्लॉज उस पर एप्लीकेबल नहीं है जब ये 5 एम्प्लॉय तक है और ये केवल एग्रीकल्चर और डोमेस्टिक पर्पस के लिए. अदर और किसी भी क्लॉजेस के लिए कोई एक्सक्लूजन कहीं पे नहीं है. तो इट मींस इट इज एप्लीकेबल टू सी ऑफिस आल्सो.
Then there's one more question. Will leave encashment related provisions, will it be applicable to employees also or only the workers?
Under the code on wages, sir, nothing has been specified. And I discussed one point or one query I discussed yesterday. One software company has asked me, sir, there are no any workers in our office. So I asked him, okay, what do you mean? What do you mean by the worker? So he says a labor which is working on like we can say on daily basis, और अपन कह सकते हैं जो दिहाड़ी पे काम करते हैं, जो मजदूर होते हैं. तो I read the definition of worker कि worker में what is not included under in the definition of worker. वर्कर में कौन इंक्लूड नहीं है? केवल और केवल पर्सन हु इज मैनेजिंग और हु इज द मैनेजरियल कैपेसिटी, हु इज द वर्किंग इन द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन और हु इज इन द सुपरवाइजरी रोल बट गेटिंग द सैलरी more than rupees 15,000. These three categories are not included under the definition of salary or employee and the worker. So अगर मैं एक सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर हूं, मैं एक एग्जीक्यूटिव हूं और मेरी तनख्वाह 50,000 रुपए की है, तो तब भी तो मैं वर्कर में फॉल करूंगा सर. मैं एम्प्लॉय कैटेगरी में नहीं आ सकता. अगर मेरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन 500, मैं एक सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी हूं, आई एम सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी एंड आई एम एम्प्लॉयड 500 सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स, तो सारे पर्सन तो सर मैनेजर नहीं हो सकते, सारे पर्सन एडमिन कैपेसिटी में नहीं हो सकते, सारे पर्सन सुपरवाइजरी कैपेसिटी में नहीं हो सकते, तो वहां पर भी वर्कर होंगे. तो अभी और ये डेफिनेशन जो है, पहले तो ये समझना होगा, ये बहुत बड़ा कंफ्यूजन है सर वर्कर का और एम्प्लॉयर का. तो एम्प्लॉयर्स विल हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ वर्कर अंडर द कोड ऑन वेजेस एंड अदर कोड्स. एंड आल्सो द सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज दैट कि सब ये जो प्रोविजंस है कि लीव एनकेसमेंट और ये सारे प्रोविजंस, ये कोड ऑन वेजेस में कहीं पे कुछ भी नहीं लिखा. अगर मैं केवल इंडस्ट्रियल रिलेशन कोड की बात करता हूं, वहां पर जनरली और ऑक्यूपेशनल सेफ्टी एंड हेल्थ वर्किंग कंडीशंस कोड में बात करेंगे, तो वहां कुछ सर्टेन जगह पर स्पेसिफाइड है कि जो वर्कर्स के लिए प्रोविजंस हैं, बट दीज आर द वेलफेयर प्रोविजंस. वी शुड keep in mind the preamble of the codes. What the code says to extend the social benefits, यानी सोशल बेनिफिट्स को बढ़ाना है. आज ही में कुछ सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट आया है, 2-5 दिन पहले का जजमेंट है जो आज शेयर हुआ है मेरे ग्रुप पे. उसमें आया है कि उन्होंने कंपेंसेटरी अलाउंस को भी उसका सैलरी का पार्ट माना, क्योंकि उसको देने के लिए तो उन्होंने कहा एम्प्लॉय को जब कुछ क्लेम मिलना था, वर्कमैन कंपनसेशन मिलना था, तो उसके लिए मीनिंग ऑफ सैलरी क्या होगी. तो उन्होंने उस मीनिंग ऑफ सैलरी में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उसके जो कोर्ट ने उसको कंपनसेटरी अलाउंस को भी इसमें इंक्लूड किया है. तो अगर यहाँ पर कहीं भी डाउटफुल है, इंटरप्रिटेशन कहीं डाउट है, कोई भी चीज है, तो वो एम्प्लॉय के बेनिफिट में लेनी चाहिए, वर्कर के वेलफेयर में लेनी चाहिए, अदरवाइज प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट हो सकती है.
Okay, then there's one another question. Some employees are paid variable pay, which is linked to their performance. Will such variable pay be excluded as they are contingent upon their performance?
So we have discussed the definition of wages and three components which has been specifically excluded, but it will be part of the ceiling. I'm giving this
Okay.
this is the category I have specified. These three specific components have been included under the exclusions: bonus, overtime allowances, or commission. Only these three names has been specified under the exclusions. And what is the regarding variable pay? अब ये भी अगर कमीशन की बात करें, कमीशन परफॉर्मेंस लिंक वो भी वेरिएबल पे होता है, ओवर टाइम अलाउंसेस भी ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ वर्किंग होता है, और जो वेरिएबल पे जो कंपनी की प्रैक्टिस है अभी की, जो उसके सीटीसी को सेट ऑफ करने के लिए जो फिगर को वो देते हैं, अगर अपन इसकी अगर कोर्ट के लॉ के इंटेंट की बात करते हैं तो वो उसमें इंक्लूड करेंगे। बट यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा उसकी क्योंकि जब भी 7A की इंक्वायरी पीएफ के अंडर पीएफ लॉ में कंडक्ट होती थी, 7A की इंक्वायरीज, वहां पर वो क्या करते थे, जो उन्होंने पाया, क्या फाउंड आउट हुआ कि जो एम्प्लॉयर है वो एम्प्लॉय की सैलरी कम ले रहा है। हमने लगा कि यार ये उसकी सीटीसी ग्रॉस तो उसकी 30,000 रुपये आ रही है, पर उसके लिए जो पीएफ का कंट्रीब्यूशन हो रहा है वो 10,000 रुपये हो रहा है, 12,000 रुपये हो रहा है। तो उन्होंने काफी सारी जब 7A की इंक्वायरी कंडक्ट की तो वहां पर ये चीजें निकल, वहां पर उन्होंने देखा का, तो के कुछ केसेस सुप्रीम कोर्ट में गए सर। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जब उसका सैलरी स्ट्रक्चर देखा तो सैलरी स्ट्रक्चर में पाया कि ये केवल सैलरी का आर्टिफिशियल स्प्लिटिंग है, नॉट इट इज नॉट द एक्चुअल अलाउंस। whatever this overtime allowances, the overtime, why overtime allowance is paid? Overtime allowance is paid only for the payment to the employee who is working overtime, and उसका जो सर्टेन पैरामीटर्स है, उसने कितने घंटे काम किया, क्या कैलकुलेशन है, बट वहां तो कुछ कोई कैलकुलेशन ही नहीं है, कोई रिकॉर्ड ही नहीं है। एवरी पर्सन, एवरी एम्प्लॉय इज गेटिंग द ओवरटाइम अलाउंस। तो व्हाट कोर्ट नोटिस दैट कि अलाउंसेस आर पेड यूनिफॉर्मली टू ऑल एम्प्लॉइज, देन व्हाट इट सेज, इफ कोई अलाउंसेस यूनिफॉर्मली सबको मिल रहा है तो वो अलाउंस नहीं हो सकता, वो इट इज द पार्ट ऑफ बेसिक वेजेस। क्योंकि अलाउंस का पर्पज होता है उस जॉब को परफॉर्म करने के लिए स्पेसिफिक कोई खर्चा करना, स्पेसिफिक कोई चीज मीट आउट करना, या स्पेसिफिक इंसेंटिव देना। उस जैसे फील्ड अलाउंस है, फील्ड अलाउंस दिया जाना है, और फील्ड अलाउंस को आदमी फील्ड पर रहता ही नहीं है, वो आदमी ऑफिस में बैठे के काम कर रहा है, तो फील्ड अलाउंस क्यों? तो यहाँ पर ये जो नेचर ऑफ उसका नॉमेनक्लेचर है, उसको केवल नॉमेनक्लेचर से काम नहीं चलेगा। उसकी अभी अभी परसों एक डिस्कशन मेरा चल रहा था, तो एम्प्लॉयर ने कहा साहब उसमें एचआरए एक्सक्लूड किया हुआ है, दिस इज द स्पेसिफिक एक्सक्लूजन कि एचआरए का बोले सर हम इतना झंझट ही नहीं पालेंगे, हम तो 50% का एचआरए रख देंगे और 50% बेसिक रख देंगे, तो सारा कंसेप्ट खत्म कि एचआरए। पर ये कि नॉमेनक्लेचर से वो एचआरए नहीं बन जाएगा। यहाँ एक चीज ध्यान रखिएगा, लॉ ने तो कहा है कि एचआरए है, पर जब भी कोई बात आई, कहीं पे भी कोई पेमेंट मैकेनिज्म होता है, तो वहां पर वो ये कोर्ट चेक करेगा, डिपार्टमेंट चेक करेगा कि जो एचआरए था वो वास्तव में एचआरए है कि नहीं है। अगर आप उसकी जेन्युइननेस से एचआरए को प्रूव नहीं कर पाओगे तो वो बेसिक का पार्ट मान लिया जाएगा। तो हम कभी भी सैलरी स्ट्रक्चर डिसाइड करें तो केवल नॉमेनक्लेचर से नहीं डिसाइड कर सकते। अभी एक क्वेश्चन, अभी एक क्वेरी अभी डिस्कस हो रही थी, तो वो एम्प्लॉयर कहते हैं साहब हम तो रिटेनरशिप पे रख लेंगे, जैसे प्रणब भाई हैं हमारे यहाँ काम करते हैं, और सॉरी, तो वो प्रणब भाई कहते हैं कि ठीक है सर, मैं तो आप ऐसा करो मुझे सैलरी मत दीजिए, मुझे तो आप कंसल्टेंसी फीस दे दीजिए मंथली, ठीक है, तो मैं तो आपका एम्प्लॉय रहूंगा नहीं। अब आप रेगुलर वहां पे जाके अटेंडेंस मार्क कर रहे हैं, रेगुलर टाइम से जाते हैं, टाइम से आते हैं, और आपने 7 से 8 साल जॉब किया, और आपने जाके बाद में क्लेम कर दिया सब के साथ इन्होंने मुझे ग्रेचुटी नहीं दी, देन व्हाट वुड हैपन? फिर आप ये, फिर वो एम्प्लॉयर को वो दिमाग में जो ये क्वेश्चंस क्यों कि एम्प्लॉयर प्लान करेगा, पर उसको ये ऑब्जेक्ट को ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि अगर उसकी नेचर एक्चुअल अगर एम्प्लॉय की है तो। सर मैं एक 7A की इंक्वायरी का मैं आपको यहाँ पर केस को थोड़ा एलेबोरेट करूंगा, जिससे ये सैलरी रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग करते हैं उसमें हेल्पफुल रहेगा प्रोफेशनल्स के लिए। कि एक एम्प्लॉयर बोला, जेन्युइन एम्प्लॉयर सबको मतलब पीएफ एलिजिबल, सबके पीएफ जमा कराता था। एक पर्सन, एक एम्प्लॉय था, उसने मना किया साहब कि सर प्लीज नॉट डिडक्ट माई पीएफ बिकॉज आई एम नॉट फॉलोइंग अंडर द कैटेगरी और पीएफ, एंड ही वाज गेटिंग मोर देन सैलरी ₹50,000 and more. So after the leaving the organization, he complained in the PF department कि साहब every this employer has deducted sorry, this employer has deducted and deposited the PF to all employees except me. and the inquiry in an inspection was raised. So such kind of situations may arise. So employer, when keeping the employee salary structure and the employee categories, they should keep in mind the future also, कि आज एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय रिलेशन अच्छे हो सकते हैं, बाद में अगर एम्प्लॉय कोई तकलीफ करता है या कोई कंसर्न रेज करता है तो एम्प्लॉयर के लिए तकलीफ हो सकती है.
Yes, sir. Even there are questions in regards to ESIC contribution. So, will it be considered or not? And even the same gratuity at times forms a part of our CTC. So, will such gratuity be included in the wage definition or not?
तो
And even the
सर मैं
medical incentive.
अभी पहले ईएसआई में सर देखो रिपीट करिए, ईएसआई के लिए आपने क्या कहा?
Pardon?
The ESIC, please repeat the query regarding the ESIC.
Yeah, in that the person is asking that ESIC, will ESIC be a form, will it be added in the wage calculation or not?
No, sir. The ESIC is the ESIC कोई उसको नहीं जा रहा है एम्प्लॉय को. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल पेबल टू एम्प्लॉय, वॉट एवर इज पेबल टू एम्प्लॉय, ESIC इज नॉट पेबल टू एम्प्लॉय. तो ESIC का वो पार्ट रहेगा ही नहीं, तो ESIC तो बिल्कुल एक्सक्लूड हो गया. This is the additional cost. Now we move on the gratuity part. Gratuity. So if we see this is the cess on this category of terminal and retirement benefits. Whatever it is the current practice, some employers जो कहते हैं, एक क्वेश्चन पूछा किसी एम्प्लॉयर ने मुझसे कि सर वो CTC क्या होता है, मतलब तो CTC होता है कि एक ऐसा फिगर जो एम्प्लॉय को लुभाने के लिए दिया जाता है. वो एम्प्लॉयर को दिया नहीं जाता, एम्प्लॉय को दिया नहीं जाता, वो केवल उसको लुभाने के लिए दिया जाता है, दिखाया जाता है. तो अब ग्रेचुटी को भी कई लोग क्या है उस कंपोनेंट का पार्ट बनाते हैं. सब इधर को ग्रेचुटी इसका रहेगा. तो ग्रेचुटी तो मिलेगी कब, जब उसका एम्प्लॉयमेंट टर्मिनेट हो जाएगा. तो अगर कोई एम्प्लॉय ड्यूरिंग द उसके जॉब में अगर उसको कोई ग्रेचुटी मिल रही है तो ग्रेचुटी है ही नहीं अभी, तो वो उसमें इंक्लूड होगी. जो अगर मैं यहाँ पे अगर मैं डेफिनेशन कोड डेफिनेशन पढ़ता हूँ, आप देखिए, दिस इज द डेफिनेशन. तो व्हाट सेक्शन क्लॉज J से एनी ग्रेचुटी पेबल ऑन द टर्मिनेशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट, यानी कौन सी ग्रेचुटी इस एक्सक्लूजन में फॉल करेगी, जो उसके एम्प्लॉय के टर्मिनेशन पर दी जाएगी, अदरवाइज तो उसका पार्ट रहेगी.
Okay. Then, sir, one question here is this code is applicable from November 2025. And ESOP is also applicable after fulfillment of certain employment term. So why ESOP is not covered? Like,
Sorry, Pranam, please repeat.
this code is applicable from November 2025, whereas ESOP is also applicable after fulfillment of certain employment term. So why ESOP
Yes.
is not covered here?
Query is not clear, but what I am understanding this query, कि this code is effective from 21st November 2025, and the person is asking regarding SOP Act, I think.
Yeah, he's asking about
Am
ESOP,
I
why
right?
it is not like
अच्छा, ESOP. तो ESOP,
ESOP,
I think
employee stock
what
option
I'm saying, the
plan.
ESOP. Yes, sir. So ESOP, what I'm saying, that ESOP, in which clause it will fall? It will not under the inclusion. And if we read the core meaning, wage means all remuneration payable whether by of salaries, allowance or otherwise, expressed in terms of money or capable of being so expressed, which would, if the terms of employment expressed or implied were fulfilled. पहला क्वेश्चन पार्ट कहता है, if the terms of employment were fulfilled, then all remuneration be payable to a person employed in respect of his employment. तो ये जो मेरा इंटरप्रिटेशन है इस मैटर में, कि जो उसने उसके बदले काम करने के बदले जो तय हुआ है और जो उसको मिलता है काम करने पे, वो उसका पार्ट बनेगा. अब माने चलिए किसी मतलब एम्प्लॉयर ने आपको 20,000 रुपये गिफ्ट दे दी सर, कोई 20,000 रुपये गिफ्ट, वो 20,000 रुपये गिफ्ट किस में पार्ट किस में फॉल करेगा, क्योंकि वो कोर मीनिंग में मेरे ख्याल से उसमें, मेरे इंटरप्रिटेशन कि इसमें फॉल नहीं करेगा भाई, वो उससे उस पर कोई इंपैक्ट नहीं आएगा. भाई आज एक चीज बताइए, आज मुझे ये सब मिल गया और अगले साल तो मुझे मिलेगा ही नहीं. जरूरी थोड़ी मुझे अगले साल ही मिल जाएगा, हर महीने मिल जाएगा। तो ESOP should not be part of the wages, as per my interpretation, as per my observation.
Okay. Then one question is, when is ESI applicable?
We will cover in the social security code, because we will discuss on. I think this question will helpful to me to set the background of next, moving on the next codes to social security code on social security 2020. Because the person, there are 9 codes which have been subsumed under the uh, Code on Social Security 2020, including PF, ESIC, gratuity, compensation, maternity benefit, and other acts. So the persons are confused with the applicability. The government has not changed the threshold. गवर्नमेंट कोई थ्रेशोल्ड चेंज नहीं किए, केवल उसको कंसोलिडेट किया है, एक शेड्यूल फर्स्ट बनाई है और उसमें उसकी एप्लीकेबिलिटी रखी हुई है। तो 10 और मोर एम्प्लॉय का क्लॉज है ESIC के लिए, ग्रेचुटी के लिए, वो सेम इज कंटिन्यू। एंड आई थिंक वी शुड मूव, अगर कोई क्वेरीज पेंडिंग हो तो बताएं सर, फिर अपन वी मूव फर्दर ऑन द कोड ऑन सोशल सिक्योरिटी 2020।
There are just two more queries. So you want me
यस
to
प्लीज,
tell it right now, or should we take it later?
प्लीज लेट मी नो प्लीज।
Okay, so there's on the nomenclature point you highlighted, any salary component will be treated as wages irrespective of its name. So the person is saying, as per his limited
यस,
understanding, this is examined only if the computed wages under the code fall below 50% of the total salary. In a scenario where the salary is structured as 50% basic and 50% HRA, how would this structure fail or not comply with the provisions of new labor code?
वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन सर। अभी जो वी डिस्कस्ड कि these are the exclusions, HR is excluded. So we are saying that we are paying rupees 500 as a basic and 500 as a HRA.
HRA.
Whether it is HRA or not, if there are questions, if I am challenging it was not the HRA, it was the salary, it was the basic, then only I am giving the name, I am giving the nomenclature. It cannot change the actual nature of payment. And these type of questions when arise, when the department do inspections या कोई कंप्लेन होती है, जब जाके सब चीजें काम आती है। राइट।
Okay. And so one last one, medical companies providing incentive on the basis of sales to market representative, they call it as incentive and not commission. So will it be considered in wages?
हाँ सर, क्योंकि वो देखिए वो उसका नेचर का पार्ट, क्योंकि वहां पर वो टर्म्स ऑफ वहाँ नेचर इंडस्ट्री इस तरीके की है, तो वहां इसका पार्ट बनेगा। और वो फिर वहां पर एक सेल्स प्रमोशन एम्प्लॉयज वाले एक एक्ट जो अपन उसमें पढ़ेंगे, ऑक्यूपेशनल सेफ्टी वाले कोड्स में पढ़ेंगे, वहां उन पे वो चीजें एप्लीकेबल हो जाएंगी। पर चूंकि वहां का टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट इस तरीके से है, उनका जब अभी अपन ऑक्यूपेशनल सेफ्टी एंड हेल्थ एंड वर्किंग कंडीशंस कोड में जाएंगे, वहां पर एक ड्यूटी है एम्प्लॉयर की टू इश्यू द अपॉइंटमेंट लेटर मैंडेटरी। तो अभी जो 50% वाला पार्ट है, अभी क्वेश्चन अराइज हुआ था सर रिगार्डिंग ग्रेचुटी, कि सब कोई ग्रेचुटी की लिमिट है पे करने की, कि कोई एक पर्सन जो मान लो उसकी ग्रेचुटी की लाइबिलिटी बनती है 30 लाख रुपीज, तो वेदर देयर आर एनी मैक्सिमम लिमिट अंडर द ग्रेचुटी। तो ग्रेचुटी एक्ट में तो डिफाइंड है, वहां पे सबकी जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट प्रिस्क्राइब करे, और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने जो प्रिस्क्राइब की हुई है वो 20 लाख रुपीज प्रिस्क्राइब की हुई है। पर अगर उसका टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट, अगर उस एम्प्लॉयमेंट एग्रीमेंट में लिखा हुआ है और कि वहां पे जो उसकी सैलरी है उसके हिसाब से उसको मिलेगा, तो उसकी सैलरी 30 लाख रुपए ग्रेचुटी बनती है तो 30 लाख मिलेगा। तो जो फेवरेबल है, अगर मेरे टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट में अगर वो लिखा हुआ है, एम्प्लॉयमेंट में लिखा हुआ है कि सब इस तरीके से आपको मेरा सैलरी आपको मिलेगी और उस कंपोनेंट में इंसेंटिव का पार्ट होगा, तो नॉट केवल आपने डिसाइड कर लिया है, वो इम्पोर्ट नॉट ओनली इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आपने उसको क्या कम्युनिकेट किया है। तो documentation will also affect these definitions and also other parts, other aspects also.
Yes, sir. So these were the questions. You can continue ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, thank you. Now we move on the. Now we move forward the Code on Social Security 2020. This code has this code contains the 14 chapters. This code has subsumed 9 labor laws, including the Provident Fund Act, ESIC Act, Employee Compensation Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Maternity Benefit, and the other laws. This code has contains the 164 sections. So we will discuss some important provisions under the Social Security codes. This is the very important section, section 1, regarding the applicability. This is the confusion among the professionals. The establishments have only 10 employees, whether all codes are applicable or not. So this has specified, this has mentioned ki one schedule, first schedule has been specified, and there the chapter, which chapter is applicable and which threshold. So same, there are no change in the thresholds. For example, the PF earlier was applicable only to the establishments which have they have employed 20 or more persons. Same provisions are there. Same provisions in ESIC. It is applicable only to that establishments they have employed 10 or more persons, and same in gratuity. But it has been clarified in the definition of employee. We will read here. Earlier there were confusions. The establishments have more than 10 persons, but every persons are getting salary more than the prescribed limit. For example, a software company has 50 employees, but every employee is getting rupees 50,000 or more. Whether they should require, they should take registration under the ESIC code, whether this is applicable for the head count. The persons who is getting more than the limit will be covered. So it has clarified under the definitions. For the purpose of head count, all these persons will be taken into count. So for PF also it is clarified that all the head counts will be taken irrespective of the salary, whether they are getting more than the limit specified. So there are no change in the thresholds. There are no change in the concept, but two more important concepts, two more provisions has been introduced under this codes regarding the PF and ESIC regarding the applicability. First, regarding the voluntary coverage. Earlier, voluntary coverage was regarding the PF only, but now the same voluntary option has been given under the ESIC scheme as well. What is the intention behind these provisions? The employers want to, central government want to organize the whole manpower in the organized manner. No person employed should be unorganized. So they have given this option to the employers and to the employers. If the employers and the majority of the employees wants to take the ESIC benefits, even if the threshold is not meet. And for example, if any offices, any establishment has employed 8 employees only and wants to get registered under the ESIC scheme, this act, this code of social security has given the option for voluntary registrations, voluntary applicability of the ESIC provisions. So this is very important change. Earlier, same provision was there regarding the PF, and very important change under these codes is the opt-out. Once these codes are applicable, then it will be applicable forever, irrespective of the fact the number of employees goes down from the limit specified. But in case of establishments who have taken a voluntary registration, voluntary registered under the PF or ESIC, and now now the establishment want to opt out from that schemes, then there are the provision for exit in only in such case, but meeting to the certain conditions specified under the rules. And I mean, under the draft rules, there are major conditions. I think there are one condition is 5 years at least. There should be 5 years continuity. मतलब 5 साल से पहले वो एग्जिट नहीं कर पाएंगे. तो बहुत सारे प्रोविजंस कंडीशंस हैं. उसके बाद उनको मीट आउट करने के बाद ही वो यहाँ से ऑप्ट आउट कर सकते हैं इस स्कीम से. तो दिस इज द इम्पोर्टेंट चेंज अंडर द पीएफ और ईएसआईसी एप्लीकेबिलिटी. And now we will discuss very important definitions. Agent, there are no such changes, but I have highlighted here because in some at some point the agent is liable for the meeting the compliances. So who is the agent? Who is acting on behalf of owner, participating in management, control, supervision, or direction of the establishments. So if any person is deemed as agent, so who is also liable for meeting the compliances? A new concept is aggregator, has been defined under the code, social security codes. The aggregator who is providing the intermediary services, we can say the digital intermediary, जो buyer और seller को या in case of service receiver और service provider को connect कर रहा है, it is the aggregator. Because the schemes has been introduced regarding gig worker and platform worker, we will discuss here. So aggregator, to differentiate between the employer and the aggregator and the other kind of employment, because why this concept has been introduced, ये जो इनका नेचर ऑफ वर्किंग होती है तो इसको एम्प्लॉयर नहीं कह सकते. सो गवर्नमेंट has defined as aggregator. They are connecting the buyer and seller and the service receiver or service provider. So we will discuss employee. We have discussed persons employed on wages for skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled. For any employee has wider definition, but worker has some narrow definitions we have explained earlier. So we will discuss here. Yeah, this is clarified regarding chapter 3 and chapter 4. The persons coverage के लिए ये काउंट किए जाएंगे, बट एम्प्लॉय डेफिनेशन फॉलो नहीं करेंगे अगर वो लिमिट से एक्सीड है. पर फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ हेड काउंट दे विल बी इंक्लूडेड. एंड चैप्टर 7 जो आई थिंक एम्प्लॉय कंपनसेशन के रिगार्डिंग है, वहां पर भी उन्होंने कवरेज को लिमिटेड किया है. Fixed term employment has been defined under the Code on Social Security. Gig worker, platform workers, the interested migrant worker, जो we were because interested migrant worker not defined in the Code on Wages, but has been defined here, and also under the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code. So who is interested migrant worker? There are change in the definitions, slightly change. Who is the interested migrant worker? Earlier, if the person is recruited in one state and employed in another state, then he was treated as interested migrant worker. But now by changing, a second clause has been inserted. If any person comes from another state and takes job in another state, will also be deemed as interested migrant worker if its wages does not exceed rupees 18,000. So it's a very important point. So I have highlighted here because certain benefits have been provided to this categories, to interested migrant workers, like journey allowance will be paid in पीडीएस सिस्टम, यानी राशन की जो सुविधा होती है जो गवर्नमेंट देती है वो भी इनको मिलेगी. In case of builder worker, also benefits will be provided in the destination state. So this definition has been mentioned in the Code on Social Security. For gig workers and platform workers, there are the government is framing schemes regarding their health benefits, insurance, and other things. So this I have mentioned here, the gig worker, who is the gig worker and who is the platform worker. In the gig worker, there are no exact employer and employee relationship, but they are connecting such manner. These are earning from such activities which are related to aggregator or which are related to employer in any other manner. So three important definitions has been introduced here: gig worker, platform worker, and aggregators. We will discuss later in the separate schemes. And fixed term employment is very important because the gratuity benefit has been extended to the fixed term employment employees, and the time limit is 1 year. If the employee who is in fixed term employment and completed 1 year of services, then he is eligible for gratuity. So I mentioned here only, and we'll discuss in the separate parts. The way we will discuss in the gratuity section and gig and aggregator schemes. So for fixed term employment, the employee will have employee will have equal rights regarding the with the regular workers, and this agreement should be in writing, and the working hours and other benefits and the remuneration should be equal with the regular employees. With the permanent employees, it should not be differentiated. So the exploitation of the persons who are working on fixed term has been controlled out by these clauses, by these definitions. The person to fall under these definitions should have written agreement and also the same benefits with the permanent employees. This is the registration requirement कि जिस पर ये कोड एप्लीकेबल होते हैं तो उसको विद इन टाइमलाइन उसको रजिस्ट्रेशन करना है, अप्लाई करना है. The establishment will have to apply, and under these new labor codes, one very important provisions regarding deemed registrations have been introduced. Within a timeline, there are no any communication with the department, then it will be deemed registered if the compliance has been done by the establishments. This is very important provisions, and I think this is also relevant for the insolvency professionals. The establishment to which the chapter 3 or 4, chapter 3 is regarding employee provident fund and chapter 4 is regarding employee state insurance, ESIC. If the business activities in the closure process, then they may apply for cancellations. So this is very important provisions under the Code on Social Security, and I think it may be very useful to insolvency professionals who is taking assignments under the CIRP. So they may check if the business activities are in the closure process, that they may apply for the cancellation of registration. Now we discuss the provisions regarding contribution of contract, contribution of PF regarding the employees on contract basis. So ये एक मेन क्वेश्चंस अभी कंफ्यूजन दिमाग में प्रोफेशनल्स के रहता है कि सब कि जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एम्प्लॉई है, who will pay the provident fund regarding that employees. Section 17 has not specified who will contribute, but has specified कि employer may recover the PF contribution regarding the contract employees with the admin charges from the contractor. For example, Mr. X is the principal employer and Mr. Y is the contractor. The Mr. A is the person who has been supplied as a contract labor or contract basis by the Mr. Y to Mr. X. Then it should be ensured by the contractor. PF should be deposited within time if the PF is applicable. If it is not deposited, then principal employer will ensure that it should be paid in only timely basis. Earlier there were confusions, but Section 17 has given a specific power to deduct the employee contribution as well as the contractor contribution. In this case, if Mr. Bai would deposit the PF, then the Mr. Bai contribution and the Mr. A, the employee contribution, both with the admin charge, the principal employer may recover from the contractor. So employers should not delay. Employers jointly liable with the contractor. He may recover that amount either as a deduction or as a debt. So this is very clear. Employer has the full right to deduct the provident fund amount regarding the contract employees. However, the contractor may deduct the employees' contribution from the wages payable to the employees, not the admin charges and not the employer parts. So this is section clarified the provident fund contribution on contract employees. Now we move on the section 28, which is regarding the mandatory insurance of employees. This is very important. If the person who is covered, who is in the ambit of ESIC, should be insured under the ESIC Act. Why this is important, we will discuss in next slides regarding section 42. If any person who is required to be insured, who should be insured under the section 28 is not registered, then employer is liable for the benefits which is payable by the ESIC. So we will discuss here. Now discuss in next slides. So section 28 says the mandatory insurance of all employees on which the ESIC provision is applicable. And at present, there are ceiling of rupees 21,000 per month of wages, and wage has been defined under all four codes. And the same definition, there are no any changes in the definition of wages under four codes. This is the provisions, same regarding 3.25%. There are no such changes, same provisions. This is regarding to contribution, 3.25% by the employer and 0.75% by employee. And this is the very important provisions which should keep in mind by the employer. This is the ESIC recovery powers for failure to insure. What this section says, if the employer failure to insure or any reason with the negligence of employee is not able to get the benefits under the ESIC or gets less benefits which was eligible, then what would happen? ESIC would pay the benefits by deeming that, by assuming that it was insured, but the capitalized value of the entire benefit would be recovered by the ESIC from the employer. For example, if any employee gets an accident during the employment and he is partially disabled, then ESIC will have to pay their compensation, their pensions and others, and the person is not registered. Even if it was eligible under the ESIC, what would happen? ESIC would pay the entire benefit as per the ESIC scheme to that employee, but recover all money, yeah, capitalized value of the entire benefit from the employer. Think about if in at present there are 10 days time period, and in the draft rules, on the person who will join from the very same date, either it should be registered with the Aadhaar, and within 30 days the details will be updated on the portal. पर एक चीज पर फोकस एम्प्लॉयर को करना होगा कि नाउ depositing the contribution is not sufficient. Employer should ensure कि the compliances are being done properly so that employee may get the benefits under the ESIC scheme. If due to any fault, if due to any negligence of employer, employee is not able to get the benefits, then in this case, employer may assume that employer is the insurer and should be prepared for the upcoming future liabilities. So this is very important provisions I have highlighted here. Earlier also that provision under the ESIC clauses, but now it is clear, and employer who was taking a depositing a contribution by seeing that 15 तारीख को जो PF की रिटर्न जाती है साथ में ESIC का चालान जमा हो जाता है, तो उससे और वो तैयार रहता है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। अगर कोई डिफॉल्ट हो जाएगा, अगर कोई पर्सन इंश्योरेंस करने से बच जाएगा तो कोई इंटरेस्ट और पेनल्टी जमा करा देंगे। दिस इज वेरी शॉर्ट लायबिलिटी, very small liability, but under this clause, if any mishappening are there, then there may be huge liabilities. So employer should take care about the not only the compliances, but should ensure all the details, all the returns are being filled properly, and if any accidents are there, any mishappenings are there, the employee and their family members and their dependent members can get the benefits of ESIC. Now we discuss the payment of gratuity. So when there are no changes in the continuous service, but I have explained here कि एक क्वेश्चन होता है सब एक एम्प्लॉय ने 4 साल 10 महीने काम किया, 4 साल 9 दिन 4 साल 9 महीने काम किया, तो क्या वो ग्रेचुटी एलिजिबल होगा कि नहीं होगा? तो वो कंटिन्यूस सर्विस से डिपेंड करेगा। तो कंटिन्यूस सर्विस अगर वहां 6 डे वर्किंग है या लेस देन 6 डे वर्किंग है, इस पर डिपेंड करेगा। इफ 6 डे वर्किंग है तो 50 to 40 डेज, मतलब किसी एम्प्लॉय ने 4 साल 240 दिन काम कर लिया तो एलिजिबल हो जाएगा, और 5 डे वर्किंग है तो 4 साल 190 दिन भी काम कर लिया तो भी वो ग्रेचुटी के लिए एलिजिबल हो जाएगा। व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट इज कंपल्सरी इंश्योरेंस से अंडर सेक्शन 57, if the appropriate government notify, this is the important point. Under earlier this was under section 4A of Payment of Gratuity Act, and the Karnataka or Andhra Pradesh government has specified the compulsory insurance, and but under the draft rules the Punjab government has also specified. So establishment will have to consider to keep in mind regarding the compulsory insurance provision. Because if this compulsory insurance provision is notified by the government, by the appropriate government, then they will have to register, they will have to take the insurance policy, and without taking insurance, they cannot be registered under the Gratuity Act. So this provision is very important. I have highlighted, and during the quarterly reporting by the listed company, if we see the software companies, the companies in the technology sector, there are huge enhancement on gratuity valuation by the change in the definition of wages, and also the region of fixed term employment. The employees who is the fixed term employment where 1 year service has been specified for eligibility of gratuity. So with this, if the appropriate government has notified regarding the mandatory insurance, then employer will also should also consider the amount of premium, and also the concept of approved gratuity fund, because there are certain confusions regarding income tax provisions, payment to approved gratuity fund or payment to insurance policy. So I invite the comments from the income tax experts whether employers should make a trust first, then obtain the insurance policy, or without creating a gratuity trust, they may obtain the insurance policy for the income tax benefits. So this is a separate issue, but under the section 57, if appropriate government notify, they should obtain the compulsory insurance. This is the provisions regarding social security for unorganized gig and platform workers. We discussed because the time is so short, so I will touch upon some provisions regarding the labor cess, which is building workers. Provisions are there. I summarize in shortly that what is the changes under the labor cess provisions and this under the draft rules. The contractors or builders will have to ensure that the builder worker, we see the builder worker is registered as a beneficiary under the schemes. Same under the gig and platform workers. Government has a specified number of schemes for the labor builder workers, but at present they are not getting the benefits due to the builder worker is not registered. So under the draft rules, it has been specified that the contractor will ensure that the beneficiary, the builder worker is registered as a beneficiary. So I have highlighted some points here only. Aggregator, the digital intermediary new liability will be introduced on the aggregator. There is this is the statutory contribution, like a labor says at present for building worker and other construction work, the 1% is being paid by the builder. So in same line, the government has planned from 1% to 2% of turnover regard to contribution under the scheme by the aggregators, but it is subject to 5% on such worker payments. So this government will make a scheme, will make a fund in which the aggregator will deposit the 1% from 1% to 2%, as government will notify of the total turnover, but it will be subject to the 5% of the total payment to such workers. So by this fund, the government will frame the schemes regarding regarding the gig worker and platform workers, and this scheme, these will be benefited. The gig workers and platform workers will be benefited by these schemes from the funds contributed by the aggregators. So I mentioned because aggregators will be a new type of establishments, they will deposit the cess on their annual turnover. In 7th schedule, they have specified the aggregators regarding ride sharing services, food and grocery delivery, logistic services, e-marketplace, professional services, healthcare platforms, travel and hospitality. I have highlighted here. Now we move on next code to occupational safety and health and working conditions code. Pranav, there are any queries?
Yeah, can we just quickly take the queries because just 10 minutes are left. Yeah.
Please.
So the first one is whether NGO carrying charitable activities is liable for PF and ESI registration.
So this is the most important questions and most repetitive questions I have even asked. So we should know these provisions are applicable on establishments, and what is establishments का nature of ownership से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. नेचर ऑफ ऑनरशिप से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. अगर हम जहां इंडस्ट्रियल रिलेशन कोड पढ़ेंगे, IR कोड पढ़ेंगे, वहां पर बात आती है इंडस्ट्रियल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स. तो इंडस्ट्रियल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स में से जब वहाँ डेफिनेशन को पढ़ेंगे तो वहां पर ये चीजें एक्सक्लूड की हुई हैं कि फिलेंथ्रोपी पर, रिलीजियस पर्पज, चैरिटेबल पर्पज से कुछ बनाया हुआ है, वहां पर ये अगर एक्टिविटीज नहीं है तो वो इंडस्ट्रियल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट का पार्ट नहीं होंगी। बट दीज आर द सोशल सिक्योरिटी कोड्स। यहाँ पर कोई भी एक्सक्लूजन इस चीज के लिए नहीं है। एस्टेब्लिशमेंट अगर वहां पर ये एक्टिविटीज हो रही है, कोई हाँ ये अगर कोई भी ऐसी एक्टिविटी होती है जो एस्टेब्लिशमेंट की डेफिनेशन में आती है अंडर द सोशल सिक्योरिटी कोड, अगर मैं इस डेफिनेशन को देखूं, एक सेकंड मुझे परमिट करा तो मैं इसको डेफिनेशन को इसमें देख लूं। तो इसकी डेफिनेशन देखिए इसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, the establishment section 2 clause 29 defines it means a place where any industry, trade, business, manufacture or occupation is carried on। अगर और बी क्लॉज कहता है फैक्ट्री, ये स्पेसिफिक अंडरटेकिंग्स हैं क्योंकि ये इंक्लूड किए गए हैं, कंसोलिडेट किए गए हैं। मोटर ट्रांसपोर्ट वर्किंग अंडरटेकिंग, न्यूज़पेपर एस्टेब्लिशमेंट, ऑडियो विजुअल प्रोडक्शन, बिल्डिंग एंड अदर कंस्ट्रक्शन और प्लांटेशन, ए माइन, पोर्ट और विसिनिटी ऑफ पोर्ट। तो हमें एक क्लॉज में देखना है, सेक्शन 2 सब क्लॉज 29 है, सब क्लॉज ए प्लेस वेयर एनी इंडस्ट्री, ट्रेड, बिजनेस, मैन्युफैक्चर और ऑक्यूपेशन। अगर ये सब चीजें हैं वहां पे, अब आप करो कि अगर एनजीओ है तो एनजीओ भी तो काम कर रही होगी ना सर, ये काम करेगी एनजीओ, एनजीओ भी कुछ ना कुछ काम तो करती है ना सर। जैसे अगर ये सारी एक्टिविटीज हैं तो वहाँ जैसे स्कूल्स हैं सर, स्कूल का देखिए, एक स्कूल है, स्कूल भी तो एनजीओ से रजिस्टर्ड होता है, नॉट 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 प्रॉफिट मेकिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होता है स्कूल। पर हाँ, अगर वहां पर कोई भी ऐसी एक्टिविटी नहीं है जिसको हम ट्रेड कह सकें, बिजनेस कह सकें, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, कुछ भी ऑक्यूपेशन कह सकें, तो फिर वो एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा। आज स्कूल्स पर, हॉस्पिटल्स पर क्यों लगती है सब चीजें? वहां पर बहुत सारी एक्टिविटी चलती हैं। क्लियर सर? एम आई क्लियर सर?
Yep. There's one more question. Can an organization having less than 10 employees opt for voluntary gratuity scheme? If yes, then what compliances an organization need to make?
तो ग्रेचुटी में तो कुछ उसकी कोई कंट्रीब्यूशन जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है सर, वॉलंटरी की। वो ग्रेचुटी तो आपको देना है, अब ग्रेचुटी देने से देना तो आप दीजिए भाई, आप इसमें तो जमा तो कराना नहीं है, आप पे तो किसी आपको एम्प्लॉय को देना है। तो आप ये तो इंश्योरेंस स्कीम है, कुछ भी है, वहाँ गवर्नमेंट का तो कोई बेनिफिट है नहीं। यहाँ तो क्या है कि गवर्नमेंट की बॉडी इन्वॉल्व है, पीएफ में गवर्नमेंट का जो ईपीएफ हो वहाँ पैसे को डिपोजिट करना है, ईएसआईसी में कंट्रीब्यूशन देना है। ईएसआईसी आप ग्रेचुटी आप देना चाहिए, दीजिए, देने में तो क्या दिक्कत है।
And one last question here is NGO is paying some minimum amount of rupees 10,000 to volunteers for their services rendered. There is no employment between the volunteers and NGO. Whether these volunteers should be covered under new labor code.
For this purpose, we should read the meaning of employee or work carefully. What is excluded other than apprentice? अब volunteer अगर वो apprentice act के अंडर में आते हैं, if you have registered under the apprentice act, then it will be treated as apprentice. Then it will not be fall under the definition of worker or employee. Otherwise, they will be deemed as employer and employee.
Okay, so the questions are done. Yep.
Now, I think we touch upon 2 or 3 important provisions under the Occupational Safety and Health Working Conditions Code. So, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020. This has subsumed 13 codes. The major codes we will discuss: Contract Labor Regulation Act 1970 and Factory Act and Interested Migrant Worker, Building and Other Construction Worker. So I will touch upon some important provisions under the Contract Labor Regulation Act here. This is very important, section 6 regarding general duty of employer. So in this, one important clause, issue a letter of appointment. Appointment letter will have to be issued by the employer. So one important question is regarding the applicability of the OSH code. We can say that कि ये जो कोड है किस पर एप्लीकेबल है, तो यहाँ क्लॉज में कहीं नहीं लिखा हुआ, बट वी विल हैव टू for specific chapters, for Factory Act, for Building and Other Construction Worker, we will have to read the specific chapter which will define the applicability. But we read the definition of establishment, then it will make clear if the establishment has employed 10 or more workers, there is specified 10 or more workers, then this clause will be applicable. And for separate clauses, there are certain important provisions as are separate in chapter 11 and as specified in part 1 and contract labor. So before reading the applicability, before checking the applicability, we should read the separate chapter for that part, separate part of that chapter. Then it will clarify. But the definition of establishment is very important to read to check the applicability also. So under section 6, there is a important liabilities there, in which a one liability, important liability is issue a letter of appointment. So, and under the provisions, it has been mentioned that the appointment letter has to be issued within 90 days from the date of the code. So, but the format has been specified under the draft rules, but rules has not been notified. So, government employer will have to take care regarding these compliances. This is the regarding annual examination working hours limit. There are 8 hours we have seen. So we will. This is the regarding. I will touch upon. We'll discuss 2 minutes regarding the contract labor. So this part is applicable only for the persons who employed, only for the employer who employed 50 or more contract workers. So this is very important. There are very important changes under this part. What this part says is the contractor will communicate digitally or in person to the worker, to the principal employer regarding the payment of salary and the time of payment of salary. अभी क्या होता है कि प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर कहता है सर मुझे पता ही नहीं है कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ने उसकी सैलरी दी कि नहीं दी. दिस इज मैंडेटरी टू पे विद इन 7 days and the mode of payment in case of contract labor, whatever is mentioned in the act, it has been specified that the mode will be decided by the appropriate government, and under the central government rules, draft rules, this is the digital mode only. So ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स ध्यान रखना है कि जो जहां पर केस कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का है तो वहां प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर, कॉन्ट्रैक्टर और प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर के कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को इन्फॉर्म करना है बिफोर द ड्यू डेट कि साहब उसने सैलरी पेमेंट कर दिया, किस दिन पेमेंट किया, किस टाइम पे पेमेंट किया, और वो उसको डिजिटली इन्फॉर्म करेगा प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर को, जिससे प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर को पता लग जाए कि उसकी जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एम्प्लॉई है उनका पेमेंट हो गया है. और नहीं होता तो ड्राफ्ट रूल्स में दे रखा है विद इन 15 days प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर उनका पेमेंट करेगा. तो पुरानी जो ओल्ड प्रोविजंस थे वहां पर जो ओल्ड प्रोविजंस के अकॉर्डिंगली प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर्स अपने आप को ये ऐसे सेफ गार्ड करता था, सबसे दे हैव नो आइडिया वेदर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स हैव पेड और नॉट. बट नाउ principal employer will have to monitor their contractors and ensure that the timely payment, salary payment has been done. I think Pranab, time is over. So if you if any questions are there, or you will permit another time, so we
I'll
may
quickly
discuss.
double check if there are any questions. Just a moment. No, all questions are answered. So
I think the time is over. The presentation is very large, so I think we should take another session for the remaining
definitely.
parts.
I'll reach out to the committee and I'll definitely ask them to again schedule one more session. But yes, sir. Thank you so much, because I know this topic, the labor laws, the new labor codes, and its impact is really a very important topic. And you made sure that you tried to solve all the questions which were asked by the participants. And I believe the session is wonderful when there are a lot many queries, and here there were a lot many queries by the participants. So in short, they were listening to you quite carefully. So thank you so much for giving your valuable time. On behalf of the entire committee of Commercial Laws, Economic Advisory, and NPO Cooperative of ICI, I thank you. And yes, I'll definitely we'll try and reschedule. We'll again plan to schedule a session, one more, wherein we can cover up the remaining codes as well. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the participants for engaging us with your insightful questions. I hope that the entire session was insightful for you as well. So thank you so much. Happy learning and have a great weekend ahead. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Pranav. Thank you, audience. Thank you, committee. Thank you. Bye.